Okay, this is the video for 2-3, and I'm going to really focus on the homework part of it and just kind of give some homework help. Okay, first of all, a lot of students are starting to kind of slack off on the vocabulary section, and that's a 2-point deduction on your homework. So it's one word, guys, this time. Make sure you're looking up solve an inequality either in the glossary or in the text of the lesson and, define it in your own words. Okay? The next part of the assignment is a little confusing because of the way that it's laid out on the pages. So we need to be able to look at 2 pages. And so we have this problem down here, if you're looking at it in front of you below the vocabulary word, and it's the problem set about Carlos working at an electronics store selling computer equipment. And the graph of the information is at the bottom of the first page. But there's nothing to do, or it looks like there's nothing to do, till you go to the back of the first page, page 2. And then you see all of these questions. Okay? All these questions 1 through 6 refer back to that graph. So you kind of have to flip your page back and forth to be able to read and do the problems. Okay? So I'm going to switch my view so we can read it. Okay. Okay, so here's Carlos. He sells computers, and basically this is the graph. The more computers he sells, the more laptops, the more money he makes. His goal is $10,000, and so he would have to sell for the $10,000. He would have to sell. So it looks like 7.5, but you can't sell 7.5 computers. He'd have to sell 8. So going on to the next page. Okay. Carlos would need to sell, first one, at least 8 laptop computers. Alright, so guys, basically we're looking at the graph to answer these questions. Okay, so number 2 says he's going to sell less than $7,000 worth of computers. Okay, so let's go back up and look at that. Okay. $7,000. Alright, I'm going to use my line tool here to kind of help keep things straight. $7,000 is here between the 6 and the 8. So if I follow that across, I touch the black line in the middle of the boxes, so about there. And then I follow it down. And gosh, Mrs. Andrews, that doesn't land on a number perfectly. Well, that's true. Can you sell 3 point anything of a laptop? Okay, it's landing between the 3 and the 4. In fact, I'd say it's around 3.6-ish. But you can't sell 3.6 laptops. So if I were answering this question, okay, I could answer it in one of 2 ways. I could say that the number of laptops had to be less than 4 laptops, because that's true. I could also say that he could sell less than or equal to 3 laptops. So I would say either of these are mathematically valid. Okay, either of those are mathematically valid. Alright, so you're just going to look at the graph and write an inequality to answer each question. Then down here at the bottom again, we've got at the bottom of this page, after we're done answering 1 through 6, we have another graph. This graph is about Elena working at the ticket booth of a local playhouse. On the opening night of the play, tickets are $10 each. The playhouse has already sold $500 worth of tickets during a pre-sale. So we've got a function here. $10 each is our rate of change. $500 is what they're starting with from pre-sale tickets. We can see the 500 on the graph. And we're going up by $10 each time we're going up. So we've got this graph. That's all fine and good. except that the questions for it are on the next page. So it's kind of awkwardly laid out. Okay, so you have example problem 7 to work from, so let's look at example problem 8. How many tickets must Elena sell in order to make less than $800? So we have to go back to that graph, flip the page, $800. And again, I'm going to follow the graph across. And this one looks like it turns out nicer. Looks like 30 is our magic number here. Okay, 30. Oh, there we go. Okay, less than $800. So less than would mean an open circle. Okay, X is going to be less than 30 tickets. And if it's less than, we're going this way. And I want to point out that on number 14 it says exactly. That means you're going to have an equal sign. That means when you have your circle, it will be colored in and no arrow. So that's for number 10. Okay. In the next section, I'm going to have you make a change, okay? Because for us, the words at least always mean greater than or equal to. So I understand why the example problem is set up the way it is. You have the function and f of x is in the beginning of it. 117 subs in for f of x. However, I think it's easier and less confusing to take the 13x plus 52, then put the inequality sign after. So if it were me, I would be, here's your function, okay? I didn't mean to cross it out. Here's your function, all right? But instead of putting the 117 in the beginning, put it at the end, okay? So like 3 plus 5 equals 8, whether you put the 8 in the equals in the beginning or the 8 in the equals at the end. These can switch ends, all right? So I'm just going to have you switch ends so that the inequality words make sense and match up with the wording in the problem. So that would mean that, these signs are all backwards from what they sound like they would be. Okay, so I wouldn't have you write any of this on this side. I'd have you writing it all on the other side. Would be greater than or equal to 117. Then solving, the other thing I don't like, I'm just going to redo this question. Okay, so 13x plus 52 is greater than or equal to 117. I also don't like that they don't show the step of subtracting 52 both sides. And this book is textbook system's notorious for that. They just skip that step. All of a sudden you just have a 65 here, and where did it come from? Okay, so you should be showing subtract 52 both sides. Then divide 13 both sides. They leave that step off as well. So I have x greater than or equal to 5 games. So I like it when they put, I think you should put it at the end so that the sign greater than or less than makes sense with the question. How many more games must Leon play in order to score fewer than, so less than, 182 points? So same function, 13x plus 52. Okay, and let me scroll this. So then we'll subtract 52 both sides. Divide by 13. fewer than 10 games. Fewer than 10 games. Okay? How many? All right, so let's move on to the next section. A hot air balloon at 4,000 feet begins its descent. It descends should tell you that it should be negative 200, as you can see later on, at a rate of 200 feet per minute. The function f of x equals negative 200x plus 4,000 represents the height of the balloon as it descends. How many minutes have passed if the balloon is below 3,000 feet? Okay, so as you can see in the example problem, we go to 3,000 feet. Okay, so if it's below 3,000 feet, it's in this circle zone. And that would mean that, we're not specific. We don't know how many feet below 3,000. It's just below 3,000. So we have x greater than 5. It's been more than 5 minutes. So have a sentence and an inequality for each one. So let's do the next one. A bathtub filled with 55 gallons of water is drained. The water drains at a rate of 5 gallons per minute. The function f of x equals negative 5x plus 55 represents the volume of water in the tub as it drains. How many minutes have passed if the tub still has more than 20 gallons of water remaining in it? Okay, so in this section, be really careful about more than or less than, because it may not be, more than might not indicate in this case a greater than sign in our answer. Let's approach this from a common sense perspective. Okay, 20 gallons starts here. And going down. Okay, so what part of the graph are we talking about? Are we talking about the upper half of the graph or the lower part of the graph? And now that I've clicked out of the shape maker, it moved my, there we go. It moved the thing here. Okay, so let's go back to the context of the question and really picture what's happening. The tub has more than 20 gallons in it. Okay, so here's the section of the graph that has more than 20 gallons in it. What are the x values here? These are the x values that we're talking about right here. So we would say that as an inequality, we would say that the time is less than 7, okay? And in words we say, not t, less than 7 minutes have passed. Okay, so you're identifying the part of the graph that they're talking about, and then identify the part of the x-axis that they're talking about. They're talking about, here's 7, okay, still has more than 20. That means this part of the graph is what they're talking about. So it's x is less than 7. So be cautious. Don't just assume that if it's more than, that you're going to use the greater than symbol. Because it's not talking about the minutes being more than. It's talking the amount of water being more than, and that's on the y-axis. So be very careful about that.